into this media space.
Conference etiquette. To ensure you get optimal benefit from the program, we have listed a number of points to facilitate an enjoyable event. Audience participation. This is an interactive platform and questions are encouraged, particularly in our panel discussion. Please state your name and organization before posing your question. Should you prefer, specific questions can be left in writing at the information desks prior to the presentation to ensure the content is covered as appropriate. Access pass. Please wear your name tag at all times, which you have been provided with, both as a courtesy to other delegates and for efficient delivery of message. If there are changes that need to be made, please ask the registration desk to print you another one.
This year, we are raising the bar with 4 dynamic breakout halls, Hall 1, Hall 2, Hall 3, and Hall 4, each designed to host powerful conversations and transformative ideas across the entire housing and construction ecosystem.
Copyright. Please note that all documentation is under the copyright of AIHS events, and the relevant speakers may only be reproduced with relevant permission. The views and information expressed are the opinion of the author and speaker, and not necessarily of the Africa International Housing Show.
Details of all breakout sessions and schedules will be displayed with LED screens across the venue to help you navigate and plan your experience with ease.
Cell phones. Kindly ensure your cell phone is turned off or on silence mode during the proceedings. Information desk. Kindly address any queries, requests, or concerns at your information desk. Dietary equipment. Please advise the information desk soonest of any special dietary requirements so as to allow sufficient time to make the necessary arrangements. No smoking. Please note that a strict no smoking policy is observed at all times at the conference and dining facilities. Smoking facilities are available outside. Conference etiquette. To ensure you get optimal benefit from the program, we have listed a number of points to facilitate an enjoyable event. Audience participation. This is an interactive platform and questions are encouraged, particularly in our panel discussion. Please state your name and organization before posing your question. Should you prefer, specific questions can be left in writing at the information desk prior to the presentation to ensure the content is covered as appropriate. Access pass. Please wear your name tag at all times, which you have been.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's come on the procession. Let's warm up. We want to especially appreciate the university led by our housing and team. We want to especially appreciate Peter's Igwe FC. We want to especially appreciate the Secretary, which is and Director of Lands, Celestina. Thank you very much. We also appreciate the Global for Housing, thank you very much. Presented by Mrs. Alapi, head of program. Thank you very much. Those who were not able to do their good work, we appreciate it. Those who were able to take the wheel, not in our time. We ask for our apostles. Those of us program for AIHS is already being planned, and you should already book your stand. The official photographer of AIHS.
Yes, they used to be about they really was access to somebody. Who was that?
Access to the approach. Let me explain.
Okay, this is like the agenda. So we are not explaining this now.
Ladies and gentlemen, please let's start coming into the hall for the technical session. We have two and it's important that we start on time. The exhibitions will be here up till Friday. So please, it's important that we take the technical sessions quickly while in between you can go for lunch and also go to check the exhibitions.
Alpha, you must be this is a laptop go do tomorrow now.
We are talking about very
I
important
want
issues.
come set the preset here, all these things for their program tomorrow.
In those days, we used to think that
You never
churches
talk.
were those with the highest
You never
number of
talk.
flyers.
Alpha,
Housing agents have
let me
overtaken.
tap that. The woman that came. These are.
There is nobody more
Is it when they are
committed
introducing now or when they
to asking about your
or this is
welfare
like a profile?
than somebody who is coming to borrow money from you.
When they are very moderator skill.
If you say you're happy that this year also should you have yeah, but I ask you a question. Are you going now? There's no like don't you want to eat? See, yeah, see, go to the medical center, go and check. Yeah, I just went and they checked me. They said, your body, the mic even went. Go and check the body.
This for
If I say I did try to HIV we are stressed. No longer require it.
how about this thing inside? Who be hold this one? Put them inside. I own.
For that carton,
I own. Okay.
why does it look at the camera?
Kí n gbé sínú carton.
And some people will back and this weekend.
Now the hear Yoruba, the hear Igbo, the hear Hausa.
We will also want to specially acknowledge and appreciate the representative of the Honorable Minister of State for the FCT. Thank you very much, ma'am. Also, the representative of the Executive Secretary of the FCDA. Thank you very much. We appreciate you for coming. Thank you.
How many hours they giving us?
So, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we want to go quickly into the technical session. I'll ask that we sit down. After the opening ceremony, every other seat has been relinquished. If you're a local government chairman holding 20 seats, you are free. If you were eyeing any seat in front before it's time to move forward, please move, let's move, let's move, let's move. Thank you. Please, those at the back, can we move, please? Those at the back, can we move to the front? From this place, it's not looking too good. I'll only advise that you avoid the white seats because those people will be donating. Any other person on any other seat will not donate. So just move to the front. I hear there are some gifts that were sent in from the villa, but we have counted these people, they cannot go around. But we are going to start sharing from the front. So if I were you, I want to get any of those souvenirs from the villa, I will move a little to the front.
Papa, give me your flashlight.
So the first presentation will be Building Tomorrow Together, Innovation and Partnerships for Housing Policies at Work. We have all the way from the Faculty of Architecture, the Fellow of the University of Hong Kong, and former Deputy Director of Housing, Hong Kong Housing Authority, Chair of Building Smart HK. Please put your hands together as we invite for her presentation, Professor Ada Fong. Please put your hands together. She's coming over to talk to us about it. Immediately after this, we'll go on with the panel session. Please clap for her properly.
Now give me your flashlight.
Our technical people, can we have our slides up?
Yeah.
Can we get the pointer from here? Oh.
No.
Can we operate from here? It's manual. Okay. So, bro, what you just want to?
Why is this one not showing it?
Huh?
Why is this one not showing it?
I don't know.
This is what I'm supposed to portray it now.
If I know the full portrait now because now OBS is easy.
No, open it. No, I don't open OBS.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed my honor to be
You know what I'm
here
trying to
with
say?
you today,
Open it
and
normally.
I'm delighted to see your enthusiasm, the talents,
Forget OBS. OBS is
housing,
running in the background.
No, I
innovation,
don't know. I
and
don't even know where they
collaboration.
keep that thing.
So,
Look at my
you
face.
may
Let me give me that thing. Make a copy of it.
thanks to Festus and also Jabuka, who invited me to join you at this auspicious event of the African International Housing Show Conference. And just a little bit of myself, since Jabuka and I have been attending the International Women's Forum, we have the same panel. So after that panel in May, Jabuka said, why not come to Africa and share our experience together? So a bit about myself.
I've been trying to name of that
Actually,
thing.
I have more than 33 years of experience in the Hong Kong housing authority. And I'm overseeing all the planning, development, and construction of public housing in Hong Kong, providing almost half the population with affordable public housing. And after retiring from my government paid job, I find myself getting lots of government appointments to various boards. The reason being, I'm really collaborating with a lot of people. When I was in post as the Director of Housing, I'm
OBS no go
doing
to
all
PowerPoint.
sorts of work, and now I am a member of the Plan Sharing Pilot Scheme and also Advisory Council on the Environment.
OBS no go to
Green
PowerPoint.
Tech Fund,
Now, film exam.
and
Why
operations
class
sector
go on
health policy,
PowerPoint?
just an example. So I have to work with a lot of people for collaboration in order to get public housing to fruition. Next slide, please.
Next slide.
And today I'm going to share with you a little bit of experience about three aspects. First is the global perspective, and second is the Hong Kong story of public housing, affordable housing, and the third is our local housing mega story over the last 7 months. Next slide, please.
Download this thing for me.
So the first part is the global perspective. Next slide, please. And
You know what you don't next slide. You know they use that.
everyone has a fundamental human right for housing. Affordable.
They use the TV.
Access to safe, secure, habitable, and
That's why you
affordable
cannot see TV.
homes.
That's why I said this one.
And in this slide, it says the global challenge for housing.
I
1.6
say I tell
billion
this
people
boys
lack
every year.
adequate
Make
housing
this thing
globally,
easy.
as according to the UN
It will
Habitat
just be one complicated issue.
And
Now, see how
but
good
we
that is.
project to the future, the problem is more devastating. By 2030, UN Habitat estimates that 3 billion people, about 40% of the world's population, will need access to adequate housing. So this is this translates into a demand for 96,000 new affordable and accessible housing units every day. Additionally, an estimated 100 million people worldwide are homeless, and 1 in 4 people live in harmful conditions. So, access to housing is a precondition for access to employment, education, health, and social services. And in order to address the current housing challenges, all levels of government should put housing at the center of public policies that face the people. So this brings us
Because it drive.
to
Let me
the issue
na
of
drive.
sustainable
Na winger.
development. Next slide.
Let me extractor. Then copy
So
am for your
here,
phone for any folder.
Sustainable Development Goals Report
Now
2025
the program
for
for
the
tomorrow.
17
Program for tomorrow.
goals.
They come today.
Next slide, please.
Because you wait after the program.
Just they have not
Slide
at least good as
shows
they
that
come today.
5
And
years
if tomorrow
ago,
we get less headache.
the start period of the SDG progress, as you can see,
I didn't know get them down. But in go there tomorrow, sir.
unsatisfactory, with only
19 minutes.
35% showing adequate progress. The rest are either marginal progress or stagnation or regression. So don't worry, this is a wake-up call, and you have to appreciate the urgency of this emergency. Next slide. Next slide, I'm going to show explore the report. But actually, I think some of those issues that we have to face in terms of housing. I will look at the first one, which is low poverty. And 590 million people still live in extreme poverty. And goal number 3, that is good health and well-being. COVID-19 undid nearly 10 years of progress in life expectancy. And this slide is, I will show a highlight of some. We go number 5. Next slide. 2.5 women spend 2.5 times more hours in the domestic and care work than men. So for women, tomorrow session. And the next one is even more disturbing and uneasy. For the 6th SDG, clean water shows that at the current state in 2030, 2 billion people who still live without safely managed drinking water. So water is also very important. 2 billion people. And then the next one, goal number 7, CO2 emissions, which is goal number 9. CO2 emissions fell by 11%, and this is still these are alarming. And the next one, goal number 11, which is sustainable cities and communities. And there it says slum populations increase 1.1 billion. So this is really our concern for housing.
Okay, you can
next
bring
one,
up your laptop.
Which is goal number 12, responsible consumption and production. 1 billion meals of edible food are wasted every day. So food is another big waste. Next one, next slide, please. Turning to this one, goal number 13, which is the climate action. Every year, the hottest year. 2023 is the hottest year, but then 2024 is another record high hottest year. I'm not sure. This year will maybe also the hottest year. So it's on the rise. So this, I think, underscores the emergency of our climate. And goal number 15, life on land. Now, small-scale farming is at the expense of the deforestation. This is also causing alarm, and this will aggravate the climate action. It's the emergency. So, and the last one, goal number 17, with less than 1/5 of targets on track, the world is failing to deliver on the SDG promise. So this is really alarming. Next slide, please. So with the next slide, I'm going to show you the World Green Building Council's action, leading change. Green buildings for everyone, everywhere on Earth. And moving forward as a global citizens, we should put our heads together with efforts, collaboration. That is a global green building movement, extending our influence with greater impact everywhere, aiming high with more ambitious targets, with strong leadership and authority in the world. So green building with sustainable development, we hope that we can have to change, to make a change. Next slide, please. So if you look at the These buildings to meet sustainability development goals, many of them are impact to the various SDGs. Locally, green buildings use circular principles with resources as listed, and green buildings can improve people's health and well-being. These are examples of the selected SDGs that we Next slide, please. And then we crystallize all these actions into three major areas. It shows climate action with advancing net zero, and then health and well-being, especially for people, and resources efficiency with circularity are the three main areas that the World Rebuilding Council is advocating that everyone should do. Next slide, please. And this was our work when I was with the World Rebuilding Council as a director on the board. So with benefits for people, under the World Rebuilding Council's North Star goal, built environment that delivers healthy, equitable, and resilient buildings, communities, and cities. So our work is underpinned by the 6 core principles of the health and well-being framework. So these are one of the areas. Next slide, please. So we hope that we can have an equitable, resilient, built environment. And according to Christina Gamble, the CEO of GBC, said our sector is in a strong position to deliver resilient development that integrates mitigation and adaptation measures, whilst also addressing other pressing societal issues, including energy security, resilience, health, and equity. Next slide, please. So we may ask, how can we make buildings green and sustainable? These include a number of ways to make it green. First, take an intelligent approach to energy. And second, safeguarding water resources. So water is important, I think, especially in Africa, because Africa is under a high water stress according to the UN SDGs. And minimizing waste and maximizing reuse, promoting health and well-being, keeping our environment green, creating resilience and flexible structures, connecting communities and people, and considering all stages of the building's life cycle. Next slide shows the problem with buildings. The problem with buildings is that a third of greenhouse gas emissions are from buildings. And about 40% of global energy is consumed by buildings and building activities. And 2 to 5 times more pollutants found inside buildings.
21, next slide.
The next slide is a projection to the year 2050. Previous one.
Previous slide, 20.
Yeah. Now, by 2050, the global population will increase by 27% to 9.8 billion, or almost 10 billion. And the global floor area will increase by 100%. This remains part is disproportionate. The growth of floor area is much more than the population increase. So we have to think carefully before we do. And then climate action. Buildings or the energy demand will increase by 50% by 2050. Buildings are responsible for 50% of global material use. So we are a big spender of the Earth's resources. So we will kill our planet if we are not careful. So health and well-being. 91% people live where air pollution levels exceed World Health Organization limits. So these are the kind of projections that we look towards the year 2050. Again, it calls for our urgent action. So the global housing crisis linked with the dual crisis of unprecedented climate change and biodiversity loss is one of the greatest social challenges we face today. And housing infrastructure can continue to exacerbate the problems, or we can be part of the solution. So the global building industry is monumental. Next slide, please. The Sustainable and Affordable Housing Report by the World GDC challenges the widespread perception that affordable and sustainable housing is not a mass market solution. And many solutions to global housing crisis the case study compared from 5 regions highlights the cutting-edge built environment projects making sustainable and affordable housing a reality for all. From the 3D printed homes in Kenya, community engagement and collaborative financing models to Southern resilience references in the Philippines. And through this publication, World champions a unified vision for sustainable and affordable housing and spotlights best practices worldwide to demonstrate the success that could be scaled for breakthrough impacts. The analysis of case study derives key calls to action for policymakers, the finance community, community leaders to work together. From the design and construction industry as well. Next slide, please. So this slide shows the principles of sustainable affordable housing that increase affordability and confidence from the alliance and implementation to changing climate, resource efficiency, and economic accessibility. I won't go into the details, but you can read it from this report. Next slide, please. This shows some examples of the achieved, and notably, say, for example, economic accessibility, purchase and leasing price, cost, and also economic security, living costs and development costs, and also resilience in relation to changing climates with adaptability, nature-based solutions, safety, hazard and disaster resilience. All these demands are fundamental to the way we work and the way we operate. Next slide.
Next slide. I want to put this deep inside.
The life cycle of sustainable and affordable housing is in a circle. First is the land acquisition and choice of location. Second is the financing and budgeting. And then is design and planning.
Picture in picture, more carry this thing from one side.
Building and construction. To operation and development and the end of life.
Oh.
End of life is
no, I'm a black school. But if I'm bringing them down,
scrap.
Put our view now. Put our view. No.
If I'm come down, you see this button now. See the
Also
position.
to be a storage of materials that we can reuse at the end of life.
But I want to come navigate and come down.
So you have to demolish. Think about how you can.
Okay.
And then the other one.
Next one.
Next slide. Pick up now. See me again now. See me now. 6 now.
This slide shows the challenges and opportunities
Just leave that scene first. Leave that first.
about housing. There are challenges. What type of construction is built and where? The second question, how much is being built? The third question, how they are being built and used. So ask these questions first. And the opportunities is that they promote and enable adequate sustainable and align development needs with supply of construction worldwide, and adopt more sustainable practices relating to the manufacturing of construction products and the design, construction, and use of building and infrastructure. This also includes, if you look at green building assessment, the distance between the place of manufacturing and the place where it's used. So we try to keep it within 800 kilometers and as within 500 kilometers. That we try to use of indigenous materials as possible. Next slide, please. So that was from the One Planet from the UN initiative, Handle with Care. It's catalyzing science-based policy action on sustainable consumption and production, the value chain approach and its application to food, construction, and textiles. You may ask why we tackle these three particular sectors. Food, we mentioned food waste is a problem. Construction use half of these materials every year. Textiles, in the last 20 years, production of apparels have doubled in quantity. These are the three big wasters on Earth. So when we use materials for food, for building, and for textiles, for apparels, again, think carefully before we dump them in the waste. We only have one planet, so please use it wisely. Next slide.
Next slide.
Next slide is the Hong Kong story. Yeah, so I will talk about Hong Kong. This part, I think Jamaica has heard about it. In the International Women's Forum, World Leadership Conference. May I ask the audience who have been to Hong Kong? Good. Now, I think for those who have been to Hong Kong, you may appreciate that Hong Kong is next slide.
Everything there.
Wait, next slide.
High rise, high density, compact city. And we are in a subtropical climate with a lot of hills, with hilly terrain, and natural habitat is within easy reach. We have to build high rise. The population is 7.5 billion. And our land is only 1,100 square kilometers. But the built up area is only around 25% of the land. The reason is because we have a lot of hills, and we preserve our country parks, our marine parks, and our geoparks as well. So we have contained our footprint for building within the smallest possible area. So you can look at it and you can see that it's highly dense, it's high density and highly populated, high rise everywhere. But you can travel within 30 minutes, you'll be in the countryside, in mountains, in the beaches. I think you can appreciate that. And if you look at population by type of housing, in 2022, permanent public permanent housing accounts for 46% of the population. This comprises public rental housing to provide for 30% of the population.
96 and this
60% subsidized sales. And then private permanent housing, 53.5%, and the rest on 10% country housing. So this is the spread of our housing, or the housing plan, I would say.
Very good, sir.
Average living space per person for the public rental housing industry is 13.8 square meters internal floor area.
Now because they need your
It's not,
the last people they read.
it's tiny, go this way.
Now they explain.
And
I think
the life
I give it maybe
expectancy
200 pages.
is the longest in the world.
Tiny.
So you may wonder why.
Only this one I don't
It's
think
because
today.
we live
This
in
laptop
a
no
high
get
density
no
area. We can
get
get
Microsoft.
access to medical
Now me just
facilities
install
very easily.
the BPS.
And people in Hong Kong plan
Then
to
they
spend
flock this to
using
UK.
public transport
Any
to go to
from
work.
banking.
So we have a very efficient transport network, or public transport network. And people can use the open space.
I swear, for the
Next slide, please. A little bit about history of public in Hong Kong. Hong Kong's public housing program dates back to the 1950s. It has been addressing the housing needs of low-income families for over half a century and contributed to the city's social cohesion and stability. The architecture, the way of life, and the culture in public housing estates have been evolving over the decades and made up a rich heritage cherished by many people in Hong Kong. In the early 50s, masses of people surged into Hong Kong. This led to a drastic increase in the number of squatters. Fires were common in these unhygienic and cramped makeshift homes. And on Christmas night in 1953, a tragic fire broke out, devastating the the squatter area in Shekin, Maine, making more than 50,000 people less overnight. So this is an emergency. And in 1924, the government decided to implement a systematic resettlement program. So this was the birth of public housing by fire. Next slide, please. And the housing authority was then set up in 1973, which was to provide affordable rental housing to low-income families with housing needs and become low to middle-income families giving access to subsidized accommodation. Mission: provide affordable quality housing, management maintenance, and other housing related services to the needs of our customers in a proactive and caring manner. So the caring part is very important. Our house is built with bricks, but a home is built with parts. So caring part is very important in the way we do this. And to provide an age-friendly and barrier-free as the environment to address the needs of ages and physical needs. We have an aging population, and also that's why we need this very urgent. And to ensure cost-effective and rational use of public resources in service delivery and allocation of housing assistance in an open and equitable manner. And the last one is important: people, to maintain a competent, dedicated, and performance-oriented team. Now, this team, I'll emphasize, is not only ourselves, not only our staff. It also includes our consultants, our contractors, subcontractors, suppliers, the workforce, safety officers, everybody in the value chain and workforce. Also, transit workers, security guards, in the estate management. So this people, all the people that bring it along, customers also serve these informal or network estimates. And we have 4 C's called the 4 C's meaning caring, customer focus, creative, and commitment. Next slide, please. That is people-centric. And we care for the environment and we care for our people. So in economic sense, almost public housing isn't just a social safety, it's the backbone of our economy. Stabilizes labor supply. Around 30% of the population lives in rental housing. Low-income workers essential to the city service sector. For example, transit workers, security guards, retail staff, and logistics workers. Without subsidized rental housing, these workers couldn't afford to live in one of the world's most expensive cities. And the rent in China public housing is around 10% of the median household income. And it's only around 20% to 25% of the market rent. So this means that low-income families have more disposable income in the market. And so these humble statistics make them. And they have a decent place to live in affordable quality housing. And they still have the ability to move their money around, maintaining consumer spending. And this will bring economic viability to our local markets. So this works economically in a sense. Next slide shows the social aspects. Next slide, please. The public housing aspects are comprehensive developments, providing not only dwellings, but also a host of affordable essential facilities, including retail, car parking, community, welfare, education, recreation, and transport facilities in a harmonious society. It's a comprehensive development. It's like a mini city in itself. And this means social stability. And we provide a age-friendly, barrier-free as environment to address the needs of residents so that they can age in place for more people. They don't need to move to elderly homes. And this means we can make rational and effective use of our city's resources as a whole. And then public housing mitigates extreme inequality, curbing social unrest, and could deter foreign investments. So housing stability fosters a predictable environment for businesses and investors. And this is critical for a city reliant on global finance and international. So this is what we mean by economic and also social aspects. Not to mention environmental and social. Next slide, please. There's a handful of powerful this slide, but this is about private developments. And everybody will try to respect it and make the best profit out of it. It's like this. It's depending on design public housing in Hong Kong. And we deliver public housing to macro level, to city planning and urban design to maximize site potential, whilst designing and planning for people with future in mind. To the micro level, interior space and furniture layout domestic flats, bringing care and attention to details for quality living space and services, and applying more design construction and sustainable construction. So I am a key advocate of passive design, assisted by maritime studies, BIM and GIS. So starting from 2004, we have been applying microclimate studies and air temperature assessments to all our planning projects from the beginning. Not design, planning, and then land acquisition. So this means that we can make best use of natural lighting and natural ventilation without the use of mechanical lighting and mechanical ventilation. This means that we can save energy and also reduce the cost for subsequent maintenance and operation. So bringing breeze and light are very important. Next slide, please. I'm going to go quick for this slide. Planning for people with baseline performance with the planning requirements, and we consult stakeholders. For consultation, we consult everybody that are in the neighborhood and in the community. And with the comprehensive approach, we are providing transport, car parking, community centers, social welfare facilities, education, retail facilities, pedestrian circulation, and local spaces and landscaping. We have at least 1 square meter of open space per person in our estates, and 1 tree for every 15 flats at least. And for our green ratio, it is 30% of the site area for green ratio. For sites over 2 hectares, for smaller sites at least 20%. Make it healthy for everyone. The next slide, please. Next slide is planning design with nature in mind. So we have a host of technical studies helping designers to integrate passive design elements holistically and refine the estate layout and building disposition. So it's a balanced design, assuring social, economic, and environmental sustainability, maximizing rent potential, and fast tracking delivery of public housing. Next slide, please. Next, I'm going to just give you an overview. We have to bring breeze and light with passive design and studies, and we need a quiet environment for living. We have noise mitigation measures. And the third one, universal design of people with disabilities. And the fourth one, improving habitable space, enhancing usability and comfortability. The fifth is enhancing healthy living, saving water, improving energy efficiency. And the sixth is screening for healthy living and avoiding urban heat island effects to ensure green environment and also healthy living environment with also social cohesion. Next slide, please. This shows the 20-something studies that we have to conduct in the early planning stage to make sure that what we do is socially, environmentally, and economically viable. Next slide, please. So this is breeze and light. Next slide, please. Because the time is limited. So use BIM is a design tool to help us with standardized modular flats that with rotary symmetry and with fabrics concrete with beam construction that we can simplify the building process and make it mechanized. Next slide, please. And we reduce carbon emission at the inner design by assessing 6 aspects of carbon emission. Next slide, please. So we have noise mitigation to create quiet environment by mitigating the source or at the innovate to have the acoustic balcony and acoustic windows. Next slide, please. We are in a dense urban area where we have different transport systems. That's why we have traffic noise. This one is a design that can enable all ages and abilities.
When you get a flash.
Young, the handicapped, and also use the spaces. The space and in the Next slide, please. But even though the flats are small, they are all accessible. Next is next slide.
No, we are the rapporteur at summary. So
Improving habitable space and enhancing the facility with the functional and cost-effective design using modular flats. And now we can have modular design as well. So prefabrication has been with us for a long time. And that shows the smallest flat of 22 persons with only 48 square meters and 24 meters. And we have site-specific design with modular design. Next slide, please. I want to show you some of the and then it's including energy efficiency and saving energy with two-level lighting system for the public areas. Next slide, please. And with green living and avoid urban lighting, green ratio up to 30% for large sites. And we provide community farm in every new estate, so people can use the farm, but urban farm as well. Next slide. Next slide is saving water, and we try to use zero irrigation as well. Because we're greening, we want to save water. What do we do? We innovate, and we use zero irrigation. And next slide is the housing ladder story. This is a long story for 7 decades. Slide, please. So this is the first of our estates, 7-story walk-ups. This is the vertical city, by the way. The ground floor is provided with shops. The roof is school, and the 6 stories are habitable dwelling units. These are not self-contained flats that we build in a kind of emergency situation. So these are all units with communal bathrooms and no kitchen. They have been cooked in corridors. Next slide, please. That is the after the fire. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. In the early 50s, after the fire.
Sorry, next slide.
In 1954, the government immediately built 2-story bungalows on the site to provide temporary shelter for emergency shelters. And then government said we're funding for constructing multi-stories in separate buildings and appointed a commissioner for this purpose. And then a semi-independent organization, the former housing authority, was also set up. And these are these.
They shock you too. You think they shock you too?
This is the beginning of the resettlement program. Next slide, please. This is the plan of the building. As I mentioned, they have only got the communal bathrooms or washrooms in the center. And then it's not only housing, we only provide with work. And they have built some factory estates in the vicinity to enable them to continue with the pace of work as well. So comprising 6-story blocks without lift service between 1995. So it's not only housing, but it's also places of work. Those next slide, please. So these are the other scheme, which is the low-cost housing program. The buildings are much better than these, but they are still low-cost housing. Built in the 1950s to 1960s. Next slide, please.
Next slide.
Next, I don't want to.
Next slide. Yeah. And then we have, in 1964, government published a white paper entitled Review of Policies for Squatter Control with Government Low-Cost Housing. So this is the beginning of the housing ladder. The temporary housing scheme was launched to accommodate those who were not immediately in permanent public housing. Next slide, please. So this is the 1964 housing ladder. We have the cottage areas, the temporary housing scheme, and then resettlement estates. And the next level up will be low-cost housing estates. And then for the private housing, the tenements, ordinary apartments, and luxury apartments. So this is the housing ladder. Next slide, please. This will show you the kind of innovation about the policy and how they change. In 1965, high-rise resettlement blocks with improved facilities were built. the population in public housing estates reached 1 million, and the population in Hong Kong is 3 million. So it's a third population living in public housing already in those days. Next slide, please. And these are the plans of those blocks. Next slide, please. And in the 1960s to 70s, the twin towers were designed and built. Next slide, please. And they built taller buildings. In 1973, the public housing bodies were reorganized, and the new housing authority was formed. And 1972, government announced a 10-year housing program. And with the development of the Mark 1 and Mark 2, it was because they are not really suitable for sustainable living. They were started to demolish beginning in 1970. Next slide, please. In 1976, now this is the beginning of the subsidized home ownership scheme. And government tried to implement this scheme to enable lower middle income families and public rental housing tenants to acquire the income to move one step up. Instead of rental, by sale flats. And in 1978, to speed up the interest program, government invited private sector to participate in the private sector participation scheme, the PSPS. So this is another innovation in policy in those days. Next slide, please. So in 1978, the housing ladder shows the squatter punch areas, and the housing still exists. And then we have public rental housing with the development program of the resettlement estates, and private sector scheme also for ownership scheme. And then the private housing market with ordinary apartments and luxury apartments and houses. Next slide, please. And then the middle income housing was completed. There's another new scheme. It completed in 1983. The reason because the house prices keep rising, and then even the middle income families can't afford to buy a home. That's why it's middle income housing. And next slide, please. So we have added one more rung in the ladder, the middle income housing scheme. Next slide, please. But after this, the market collapsed, and then we have to change the middle income housing to private housing. So this shows that we have to adjust the policy in tune with economic times. Because time is almost up, I think. So I will not continue with the subsequent story. But this will give you a flavor of how we have to adjust the policies of housing to suit economic and social needs at the time. And for us, we have some changes as well. We have the development scheme, and then we have tenant purchase scheme, and then we have to stop all the home ownership schemes because we overlap with the private sector market, with the downturn of the economy. So it's also many twists and turns as we move and maneuver through the ages. So this shows that we have to be flexible and be ready to adopt and adjust our policies to suit. Thank you very much.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, you must agree with me that the professor has done justice to the talk, telling us the story of the rising above the challenges of the population and several natural disasters, to then have the longest life expectancy rate in the whole world. I think it means that we as Nigerians should not be afraid of our population. Do you agree with me? On that note, once again, please put your hands together for Professor Ada. Very tempted, very tempted to call her Ada Eke.
Which other
like she's from,
Anybody commenting on a brigade approach?
In a short while, we will move to a panel discussion that will be properly handled by the moderator, Mr. Femi Adewale, who doubles as the chairman, Cooperative Mortgage Bank. We would be inviting very distinguished personalities to join in conversations concerning collaboration, innovation, and policy making. Right now, I'd like to hand over the microphone to the moderator if he's within the house, so that we can begin to move on. So, permit me to teach you a special round of applause to welcome Mr. Femi Adewale. Can we do it properly? Just above, just a little above the head. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We are set for a panel discussion. But before that, just a couple of opening comments, and then I'll invite our panel of esteemed experts to come up. It's amazing from Professor Fang's presentation. I wish that I spent 2 hours listening to her than the goodwill, not so goodwill messages. You know, we need to learn a few things. One of the key things that I've learned from her is quite similar to what I think Nigeria faces. One of the things that should keep us all awake at night is that by 2050, which is not too far, 25 years, there will be 5 million Nigerians, twice the size of this population. And we have no idea today where they're going to live, how they're going to eat, where they're going to work. If we don't begin to do something about it, we face a significant, difficult future. And therefore, I learned a lot. Thank you, Prof, for some of the experience from Hong Kong that I believe that our leaders and a lot of us who are here as practitioners in this room can learn from. So, on that note, I'm following up on some of the key themes of our Prof's message. We have put together a very strong panel indeed to discuss the whole subject of housing, building tomorrow. Okay, building tomorrow.
Okay,
together,
I'll do a
partnership
now.
You may
small, won't be matching.
Building tomorrow, and partnerships for housing policies that work. Housing policies that work not just for a few, but housing policies that work for all. So I'm going to invite to come up here the panel, and once they come up, I'll do a very quick introduction to them. Professor Fang, please come up. I think we have been introduced, so I'm not going to introduce you again. Thank you very much. Please give them a round. I will also call, please have a seat, maybe the second one. Yeah, okay. I will also call Madam May Abdel Hamid. Madam Hamid is the chairperson of the Mortgage Finance Fund, MFF, in Egypt. Thank you very much, Madam May. Thank you. And finally, I will invite Mr. Alassane Ba. Mr. Alassane Ba was my former boss. Mr. Alassane Ba has been managing director of Shelter Afrique, was also managing director at Africa 50, the African Development Bank's investment fund. These are exceptionally experienced men. It is our good fortune to have them to share a bit of their experience and insight with us on this subject of building tomorrow together. Innovation partnerships for housing policies that work, working for all, not just for a few.
So we're short of time, so we're going to get into it right away. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to start. I will soon take a seat, but let me start with a question for every one of you. What does housing that works for all mean? Okay, so we're talking about building tomorrow and developing policies for a housing that works for all. What does, in your own view, what does housing that works for all mean? So maybe I'll start with you, May, and then Alassane, and then we'll end up with Chris.
Yeah, come on.
I hope these are working. Okay, good. Thank you.
Get some connection.
First time, thank you for the life. I came across only.
Tell him they use again.
As an introduction, I'm May Abdul, social housing and mortgage finance fund in Egypt. That's a fund that is responsible for making housing affordable for those who can't afford it. The question difficult, so you need to do some analysis of your ecosystem to see how you can make housing for all. So you have a big segment of installment loans with the government and paid for sustainable program. So a lot of challenges that we needed to address for all the name of our program, by the way. Housing for all, and that program we were targeting those who have afford to get through the regular market conditions and market pricing. payment assistance for those people. You needed some interest rate subsidy as well, because at 30%, definitely the houses couldn't afford. You needed to build houses enough and get the financing needed to build those houses and have a program that is sustainable. So we decided we are going to do this through the mortgage market. So we built
My phone is 10%.
90 square meter and 75 square meter.
Okay, I'll see this of this guy.
Fully finished. And we, once the construction is ready, we sell them subsidized the banking sector. At the start, we never had any banks working with low income and middle income size doing mortgages with them. So we had to prepare the ecosystem from registering the title for the banks to facilitating the mortgage process, to standardizing the contracts, to doing to establishing the liquidity facility to refinance the mortgage companies short of liquidity since the low deposit takers, and the sector to encourage them to come in and go down.
Okay, Ben, I'll come back to you because we need to learn more about the Egyptian experience. But I'm going to understand how will you define housing that works?
Check. Change your shot.
I would like first to thank the organizers for inviting me. I'm so happy to be here and learning more about what is going on housing in Nigeria. I think this morning we were blessed by many presentations and very knowledgeable people. I think they touch all issues about housing. And in addition to that, I would like to thank Femi. We worked together and we tried very hard to make big difference across Africa. It was very hard because housing sector is quite difficult, and at this time in Africa, we can call it an immature sector, struggling because we are lacking capital. Lacking capital from the private sector, lacking capital from the public sector. This is a domain where the public sector have a big obligation. When you do some market segmentation in Africa, what do you see? You see just 1% of the population being affluent, and the middle income bracket, depending on defining, it between maybe 3 to 10%. This is the people who can afford some type of house. Even that, really, if you do some rigorous economic and financial analysis, to see someone to be eligible for mortgage, the household must pay at least $1,000 per month. When you see that in Africa, it's maybe 2% of our population. It means we have about 90% of our population struggling to access to housing.
One by, no way, one by.
Because they have an issue about affordability. And the government is not able to plug the gap. Plugging the gap first, meaning the government being able to put the infrastructure. Because when you are talking housing sector, you need infrastructure. And the infrastructure is a domain of the government. If the government is not able to put the road, to put the electricity, the sewage, the water, it's a big issue. Because when we are talking about housing, it's always at the remote area. And people need the connection between their location and the job market. And this is a domain of the government, because even you give someone a house, maybe at 50 kilometers, he will never go there. Because the cost of the transportation is a big issue. When you are talking housing, the flashing always cost of the transportation, because they are in. It means, just to make it short, we have a serious issue about the housing across Africa. We are blessed. We went everywhere in Africa. We learned a lot, except some countries in Africa, especially North Africa, making some good progress, like Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria, and some rest of the Africa. The people who can access to mortgage of the household, meaning we have a serious issue about access to capital. And access to capital, this morning, people talk a lot about the situation in our countries about access to capital. And the housing finance is one of the big pillars for the housing development. And when you have an interest rate in double digit, and there is no support from the government, it will be very difficult to make housing work for all. I think it's an intentional, which is quite good. It's an aspiration, which is quite good. But we are quite on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor. Now your turn. I mean, it was very interesting, your chronology of the development of public housing in Hong Kong. Do you think the Hong Kong housing experience works for all? Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, I think it works now. Thank you.
Okay.
Now, I think different economies have different problems to solve. I won't say it's one solution for all, not even for Hong Kong, because as I mentioned, with different times, different economic and social aspects, the policy have to change. But in the Hong Kong experience, if I may respond, about new development areas. Now, we are usually the forerunners in the new development areas. But after we move there, we have a kind of balanced social mix. So there would be other middle income or even luxury apartments that will move in later. But we come with the infrastructure. For instance, the roads, the water supply, drainage systems will all be there. And also police stations, fire stations, ambulance depots will be there when our public housing move into a new development area. That was the case when we have the new towns in the 1970s. So it is a balanced social mix that we need. And it's not only dormitory towns. We need places of work, as I mentioned earlier. We need maybe factories, offices, and other places of work, retail facilities, and community facilities, a tree town. So for developments, I would say land supply and planning strategy are the most important. And provision of infrastructure is definitely a government's action. We need clean water, especially I think in Africa.
you can't just simply leave it to the individual developers to do their own things, especially with water supply and drainage systems that are essential for public health. So I think government have to provide these basic infrastructures. And then for Hong Kong, we usually government will not have too many interventions in the private sector market. So as you can see, public housing only provides for slightly less than 50% of the total number of domestic units. But you have to look at the housing demand and housing supply. And housing demand is not only population growth, it's also household formation. So if you think you can have intergenerational living together, you live with your parents, you live with your kids, you live with your grandparents, then you don't need so many housing units. But if every kid at the age of 21 want to have a home of their own, then you need a lot of new housing units. So it's a kind of social aspect that we have to bring to the generation, so younger generation, to live with the older generation together. So maybe this is something that you can explore. So it's not only the numbers, but it's also the people that work together. So if I may just stop here, I think there's good enough points to discuss. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Funk. I'll come back to you, May, if I can. Now, Egypt has made very, very significant large-scale. Are you able to share with the audience any examples of policy innovation that gave Egypt the advantage it now has to deliver housing at scale? Thank you.
Thank you so much for the question as well. Maybe for those who visited Egypt, we've had the conference. I had the African Union for Housing Finance. That was their annual conference held in Egypt, and we've had a chance to visit some of our projects who typically started in the desert, as you all. We were keen when setting the strategy to have the government commitment to provide the infrastructure, the services, create destinations where you can sell land to private developers, and so that you can get some extra funds to cross-subsidize across income sectors. So all public land in Egypt is owned by an entity that is also part of the Ministry of Housing, who provides the land to us. They do the infrastructure, they maintain the neighborhoods once we have livability there. We make sure those new cities are not quite far from work centers. We have a loan with the World Bank that is linked to performance indicators, and we make sure that we don't have a lot of commuting in to the nearest working stations. So far, we've managed to deliver more than 650,000 for household formation. So 3 million people moved to those new cities, increasing the area lived by 7%. I consider the most important pillar in this story is getting the banks and the banking sector there, provide the right set of incentives, government to provide the subsidy, interest rate subsidy, paid monthly, because once there are delays, you will see banking coming out of the program. When we started, we had only 4 banks interested to start. We've set some good incentive package where we were paying them 4.5% spread on each mortgage done for a low-income person. So we started to see increase in number of banks interest. We managed to include more than 60% of the banking sector, 22 banks now working with us. We have only 39 banks in Egypt, foreign and local. The program proved to be very successful in repaying because people are subsidized. They cannot find this house at the market conditions, so they're keen on paying on time. We've had this program centralized, so consolidation of housing agencies into one entity who is responsible of building and preparing the financing needed for construction, and cross subsidies from middle and upper income land. So we've paid the subsidies around 35 billion Egyptian pounds since we started, but we managed to get mortgages from the banking sector of more than 100 billion. At the start, we had like 2 billion outstanding in mortgages across all sectors. And in those 10 years, we managed to reach the 100 billion level with the banking sector only for low income and with a delinquency rate of 1%. I think we've managed to do a breakthrough in this sector. And as Professor explained, we are more or less focused on household formation, because not everybody who wants to buy a house is able for a house. We set a criteria that is revisited every year. We have some of this is we have like 3 to 5 million units empty, so some distortion. So I agree with Professor that not everybody should. Some should go and rent out there. Some live with their parents and so on. But we need 100 to 150,000 units each and every year for household formation. So this is what we built, and getting the banking sector there makes the program sustainable, because we get back our money through the mortgage proceeds and reinvest that in building new houses. When we had old public housing systems, they were all built and financed. We end with a repayment rate of 5%, and the numbers kept on narrowing until we ended up building 5,000 units for low income instead of 150. So key to have the housing finance there, have the government commitment to pay the subsidy required and review the subsidy. We have a very smart subsidy system. We don't pay everyone the same subsidy level, because we want to maximize the leverage of each and every individual. So they pay 40% of their income. They pay a down payment of 20% through the 3 years of construction. We pay a cash subsidy depending on the level of income. Or the higher the cash subsidy you get. Okay, we review interest and the parameter every year to make sure we are doing the right targeting.
Okay, May, thank you very much. Just a quick follow-up on that. What role has data played in the development of policy in Egypt? Just very quickly, 30 seconds, data.
Data is very important to decide the levels you want to reach. Okay, that's easy. Yeah. Economic data is very important to targeting people, so you want to reach the levels that cannot go into the regular market conditions. So we have like data, economic data that is out each and every year, and we depend on that, on defining the eligibility and reviewing the subsidy levels we pay each and every year. Also, we have managed to establish a big, you can say, a lot of things on government data. So we have like a database of we have managed to build a database of all the people who benefited from government programs and subsidized things in the past. And we continue to improve that. We have links with other government bodies, and these were done lately because we want to improve our targeting. We have witnessed a huge demand since we started. So at the start we had limited numbers. People were not really believing they can do so or get qualified for a mortgage and so. But now for every application I get like 6-7 person for every flat. So we needed to improve the targeting. So we built a large database linked with other government body. You check if they have electricity meters, for instance, that they have their house. We do an investigation, a site investigation, to make sure they do not own houses and that their income proofs, so on. So it needs a lot of work on that side as well.
Very much, very much. Alassane, I'll come back to you. So we talked about collaboration. You can build trust among partners who have objectives. Government, which has a public policy objective. You have developers who typically will have a commercial objective, and you probably buyers then who just have a basic need that needs to be. How do you build a trust among those three key stakeholders who need to collaborate for housing?
No, thank you. I think we have no choice. We have to work together or put in place a policy, put in place action that developers, policy makers, buyers, all stakeholders to work together and make sure courses can work in order to improve. We have a lot of constraints. This is the reality, and it will not change tomorrow. It will take time because improving the interest rate, it can't happen overnight. Getting more money in the housing sector, it will not happen. And even for the developers, the situation of the is still very challenging, because when you see the company is not well capitalized, the company have a very limited capacity delivery, the company has not a big delivering mass production. All these are the concerns, but despite the constraint, we have to work together. I say that we encourage every is have a PPP program with government sector. First thing that the government do is to improve doing business in housing, and it's still very challenging. Improve by doing something very important. I already mentioned it is the infrastructure. Delivery on the infrastructure. We have the land, but what is missing is a serviced land. Because if you don't get the infrastructure, it will be very difficult to build affordable housing, because the to put in place the infrastructure cost at least between 20 and 30% of the total. It will make the project difficult to be bankable, because when they go to the bank can't see really the project is profitable. Meaning the government has utility infrastructure. It has a second responsibility in with the developer in order to improve the market, because the developer there is market. Sometimes the government can put some subsidy in terms of the interest rate to help the buyers to get an affordable interest rate. I think we are like what they put in place, a mechanism that as to buy house, and the house is of the structure and subsidized at the level of the cost of the mortgage. At the end, the developers has not a big risk on the market, because you can identify clearly who will buy the houses because the affordability is already embedded in the. I think the type of examples that we need to put in place to put PPP in order to have a mass production, because this is very critical. Seeing across Africa is to see very small project. Some people putting 100 unit, maybe unit, not compared to our needs. I think we need project 1,000 unit, 2,000 unit, 3,000 unit on the recurring basis every year on the market. I think this is one of the things that the legislation, I think everywhere you see a good legislation on the PPP, but what is difficult is to make it work and to make sure we can merge. In general, what we have is the implementation. Implementation is lacking, take time, take of effort, the government and the development. And we are losing time. The deficit is growing. I think someone across Africa, we have 50 million units missing, and it's growing every year. And the half is in Nigeria. This is what one of our colleagues said. I think we need to move with scale. We need to move with affordability. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alassane. I'm coming back to you again, Professor Fong. Okay. So there's an ongoing debate. You said in your presentation the sustainability and the environment. So what's on balancing environmental affordability in a low-income economy where most of the population are really struggling, even the base house?
I think in Hong Kong, we have in Hong Kong, I think we have a practice of at least 50 years of life according to the building code. For public housing authority, we have for those completed in the early 1990s, they have a life expectancy of more than 100 years. So sustainable housing means that we can long, easy to, and will not be expensive to operate. So it makes sense and do our planning and design aggressively to reduce energy consumption. That can spend less on energy bills throughout the life cycle of the buildings that they live. And build a lot of repairs. So easy to maintain thereafter. So this will make economic sense with green buildings stability. So this is one of the first key to upon our audience and our profession to think long term and think before you build and think before you demolish and with the building or retrofit or upgrade instead of demolishing buildings. So to say can keep our people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before I go to the set of church, I understand that Dr. Duade also representative of the FCA in the room. Okay, this Dr. Adedikwe. Okay, all right. So I understand you have your question that you want to make. Is that right? Okay, please come. And I understand there's a representative of the Honorable Minister seat here. Where is he? The minister's rep. Okay. Okay, please come. Let me take you first before we go. I understand that you wanted to make an intervention on behalf of the minister. Okay. Should I give you the microphone? Do it.
Thank you. Permit me to please acknowledge the distinguished panelists, very distinguished guests, the organizers of this event, members of the press to me. The executive secretary was supposed to have been here and make a presentation on behalf of the Federal Capital Development Authority, but due to some other important state assignment, he is not able to be here himself. He's asked that we speak to this August gathering with a presentation which he prepared about 4 pages, but I'm afraid may be uncomfortable with reading this 4-page this event. Permit me, however, to state FC working seriously in seeing meeting the housing goal, the renewed of the Tinubu administration, and we are working, and you know very well that in this Federal Capital Territory, that the FCT minister who is project wakes, thinks, drinks, talks, and this project. And the thing for this drive for project that housing is provided for as much as possible to as many Nigerians who are either living in, working, and living in FCT. Minister all times working towards meeting the housing needs, and you will. Abuja is the fastest city in Nigeria, and as a matter of fact, even beyond that, indeed, our population had tripled beyond what is expected. He knows the reasons for balloon in the FCT, and the FCT is working assiduously through the provisions. Only recently, the commissioned 17 projects, and you know that without infrastructure, you will not be able to have housing. Without infrastructure, houses, when they are delivered, housing is also a key aspect of government. Regulation is taken very keenly. It's also in FCT, much that is more than many other places in Nigeria, that you will have documented accesses to lands. And we want to maybe you are visiting from home. Abuja Traffic Information Services, because in ages you will learn a lot about housing. With our departments in mass housing and you will also be able to get an opportunity into PPP initiative. And then you can also partner with us in the delivery of this in the territory. Let me also mention that the Department of Public has over the 20 years done quite humongous deliveries in this area. Finally, let me the FCT is welcoming all the participants to this program, and we are open you in any aspect of housing delivery, whether it be your it be your development or you are interested in public-private partnership, just know that Abuja is that destination for housing in Africa. Thank you, and God bless us all.
Right. Okay. That's very encouraging. The FCT is ready for work with Mr. Project Governor. No, Minister. Thank you very much. So look, I'll come back to a closing toast to you, expert panelists, and I'll start with you, May. If you could change one thing about policies across sub-Saharan Africa and including Nigeria to make it more effective, what would it be?
We engage public sector in public housing. One challenge we have, and that would this is something we're trying to find a solution with, is to the sector in building public housing or affordable. So far, this is something very challenging. We've been allocating land for very low prices, but we ended up is not right. It's who deserve subsidized. Trying to find the right set of incentive to encourage the private sectors to come in at decent margins. We definitely understand they want to make profits, but we want to make sure that if we are those initiatives, we are going to offer the flats or the projects right position, because we are as a government infrastructure at a very high cost, and we want the units to reach those who are able to. One other thing is rent. It's a thing, and now in Egypt we're facing like rent controls since the 60s for a lot of contracts. So people living in those and paying symbolic, and landlords wants their flats having a new law for that, and we expect people that cannot afford at the rental subsidy rental. Maybe this is something to capture all the income categories you want to subsidized housing or to make you want address rental market as well. This is something very challenging.
Thank you very much. Professor Funk, please, one thing that you think we could change to improve the effectiveness of the housing policy and delivery in Africa, what will it be? One thing.
Well, without knowing a lot about Africa, I would say water supply.
Water supply.
Clean water.
Okay.
And infrastructure.
Okay.
And then for developments and for townships, it's not only housing. It's got to be planned holistically with places work and also holistically.
Okay.
I think planning is an implementation of public facilities is also very important.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Alassane, you have the privilege as my boss of the last word. Okay.
Yeah,
what will be one thing?
No, this is very difficult because the whole system is not working well. The whole system is not working well. It's not efficient. At the level of the delivery is quite weak. we have to start with the government, because at the end, everything starts from the government. The first thing is the sector must get more fiscal resources. Whatever, I don't know where they will get it, but when you see the level of the fiscal how in our is too low to make difference. This is the starting point. The government has to show he's really committed to financial resources. When you listen our leaders, I think the speech is quite good on the paper. But at the end, when to come to the resource allocation, you will not see the housing is a priority. You will not see it, because the housing is getting maybe less than 1% to 2% of the budget allocation. I think it has to change, starting from the government and following by the private sector and the other stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So that is it, ladies and gentlemen. I think all that is left for me is just to thank this very esteemed panel. I'm a little bit frustrated because I wish I could spend 2 hours with these people, be a better use of my time. And I will still come back to you, Professor Fong, on the experience in Hong Kong, and Madam May in Egypt, and of course, Alassane, your widespread experience. So I think on behalf of the organizer, please, a round of applause to our esteemed panel. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Please, you can make it louder for them. Where's the photographer, please? They'll just take a group photograph, and that will be it for today. Ladies and gentlemen, please do something for me quickly. If there is a seat in front of you, can you just occupy that seat? It's not going to be fine when we see the pictures of us scattered this way. The seat in front of you should be occupied quickly. Thank you. An internal event, and people are watching from all over the world. Please occupy seats where you're all VIPs. Thank you very much. Are we done with the photographs? Please give them up, ladies and gentlemen. Our time has been far spent. I can still see seats in front, empty seats. Please occupy every empty seat in front of you. Please. And also, this announcement is very important. Be mindful of your pockets here today. So don't let anyone take advantage of you in any way. Be mindful. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, for the next presentation, I would like to call on Pulumi Kemiki from the Federal University of Technology, Futmina. His present as the foundation unlocking housing finance and development. Ladies and gentlemen, please a round of applause as it's forward. So let me just do this. I will call everybody who will be in the next session, and then he will do, please have a seat, sir. A round of applause for him, ladies and gentlemen. And then he will do his presentation, and the session will kick off. The moderator for the next Hakeem Oguniran, founder and chief executive officer of Eximia Realty Company Limited. Ladies and gentlemen, please a round of applause for him. You're welcome, sir. Please help me welcome Reverend Dr. Chukwu Chime, Chairman Copen Group and Chairman AHCN Board of Trustees. Please, a round of applause for him. Yes. Oh, you want to watch the presentation? Oh, okay, okay. So please come for your presentation, and after that, they'll come up. How long?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, distinguished special guests in our midst, invited guests, the organizer, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Land as the foundation, unlocking housing, finance, and development. Because of our time, I will just run it very quickly because of our time. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, land is the bedrock of all forms of development, and that is what makes land very pivotal and important to our. I also equate land to life. Everything takes place on land. Next slide. Is the bedrock of all forms of development. In Africa, we have 30 million 5 square kilometer of land with a population of 1.5 billion. In Nigeria, 923,000 square meter with a population of about 237 million. Project as to land has remained a elusive goal for many low-income earners. The result is that they live in remote areas with attendant challenges, high cost of transportation, poor insecurity, which further cycles of poverty and exclusion. Next slide. Come on, cities are not for the poor because they cannot afford it, so they need to move to the interior. You see the poor trying to access the city, say, no way, you don't have the money, you can stay here. Go back to the remote area, and the poverty circle, continues with attendant problem. Next slide. In Africa, the land administration faces numerous challenges, but I have identified just 4 basic ones. One, weak land governance. Weak. Most of the Africa country exhibit very weak land governance. That's why you see intervention from international agency trying to assist Africa country to develop an ideal land governance structure. Governance poor documentation, corruption, and incompetent administration of land, which leads to land grabs, dispute, and insecurity of tenure. Excuse me. Next slide. Sorry, hold on. Next point, lack of secure land title. Only over 70% of land in Africa remains undocumented, which arise due to land scarcity, overlap land leases, particularly in rural areas dominated by community land. And the customary land tenure system managed for a long time because Hayden, being the first landholder, could not keep to the clauses contained in the certificate of occupancy, and as such, his tenancy was terminated. Next slide. Because of what's happened in the Garden of Eden, every country is struggling to ensure that they have a perfect land system. In Nigeria, we have our major land administration challenges. Our land is about 923 square kilometers, out of which 4% is titled. The poor people can only have land in the remote areas, which make our women and children to suffer. If you look at the first picture, that woman with the child at the back, holding that boy with a school bag, going to school, trekking from the remote area to access education, our women and children suffer. 65% of civil cases in Nigeria courts are land-related disputes, ownership claim, boundaries, encroachment, inheritance. That is some of the, but basically in Nigeria, we refuse to embrace change. You can see the middle picture. Change, say, take change. Let's change from the norm. Let's depart from the, no, I don't want to change. I will continue to do it the way I'm doing it. And that is another fundamental issue that is undoing us, either within the land sector or as a country. Next slide. Land and housing, husband and wife. Land as a prerequisite for housing, of course, that has been established. Land value and housing prices. Housing prices takes its root from land value. Land use planning and housing density. Whenever the land is planned and zoned for medium, low, and high density, it influences the type and the quantity of housing you find there. Land ownership and housing security. When you have a secure land title, it's secured your accommodation. Land policy and housing affordability, land and housing dynamics. These are some of the relationships that exist between land and housing. Next slide. Historic evolution of land governance in Nigeria. We had the pre-colonial area before the taskmaster came to deceive us. Land were in the hand of individuals, and when they came, they set up some laws that benefit them during the colonial areas. Then when they left us with our land, and we revert back to some of those old systems, and each of the northern, southern trying to evolve their whole land tenure system. Then we saw some fragmentation that led to the promulgation of the Land Use Act of 1978. And thereafter, after the Land Use Act of 1978, there has been calls for land reforms, for some regulation, and for some policy to make land administration better. Landslide. Part of the land reforms in Nigeria is the 2009 Land Reform Initiative under late President Musa Yar'Adua, that set up the very good committee, Presidential Technical Committee on Land Reform, as a major step in addressing land administration challenges in Nigeria. The PTCLR in 2015 developed a manual for standard operating procedure on systematic land titling and registration for Nigeria, with a pilot scheme in some states. That committee has done a good work, and we look forward to the implementation of other policy as contained in this recommendation. President Bola Tinubu Renew Hope agenda and land. All the Renew Hope agenda of President Tinubu is linked to land. Reform of the economy, strengthening national security, boosting agriculture, enhancing infrastructure and transportation. So land, etc., is highly pivotal to the realization of the agenda of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Next slide. In 2023, when our own dynamic, hardworking minister, Architect Ahmed Dangiwa, assumed office. He hosted the Presidential Technical Committee on Land Reform and reiterated the commitment of the presidency to ensure that all the regulations and recommendations contained in their submission will be implemented. That is another step towards solving our land administration challenges in Nigeria. Next slide. 2024, under Architect Ahmed Dangiwa, we had the review of crop and economic tree compensation rate. Before the minister came on board, 2008 old rates were the rate that were being used for project affected person. And that rate had become obsolete about 16 years later. Imagine a tree, a mango tree that is fetching the owner about 200 and something thousand in a year. But the manual says pay him 4,000. So when they pay him 4,000 for compensation, tears. You can see the woman crying with 2008 rate. But when I led the project, I was the lead consultant throughout the country to revise the compensation rate, and we have done that. It has been released, a compendium of over 300 and something pages, state by state, each of the crop with their botanical name, with their English name, with their native name, with the picture, so that when you go to conduct compensation, you will be well guided. And now going forward, people will be smiling. You can see this man now smiling. The project affected person begin to smile. The pictures below are some of the activities. The first picture below that woman crying when we're in Ogun State with the World Bank team. In the middle, we're in the farm with the farmers, for further stakeholders engagement. And here is the minister receiving the report in 2024. These are some of the steps taken by the current administration to ensure effective land administration. I must also give it to our Director of Finance, SS of and Labi Cornys FNIVS. Very hardworking and committed to ensure that we have a robust land administration system in Nigeria. Next slide. The Renew Hope Housing Program, the minister spoke about it. It's live. It's live. You go to the portal, you subscribe, and there are various modules of payment. That's another intervention by the current administration. Next slide. Yes, the ministry is now proposing, the Nigerian Land Registration, Documentation, and Titling Program. This will support states to digitize land record, expand the issuance of verifiable land titles, build professional capacity. Most of the states lack that capacity. Many of them have deployed GIS, but still ask, you will discover that the quantity of CFO being rolled out is still far below expectation, calling the present system into question. That partnership will also improve the IGR of state, empower marginalized groups, especially women, youth, and informal sector. The state government will still retain full control of their land, while the federal government plays a supportive and non-intrusive role. You may ask, is federal government interested? Because federal government itself does not have a land, and the government is interested in the welfare of Nigerians. So they can only do that by partnering with the state, by bringing the dividend of democracy to an average Nigeria. Next slide. Need for a paradigm shift in the approach to land governance. There is an emergency in the land governance. Look at our population in 1980, 73,423,000. Our land remained the same, 923,000 square kilometers. Ratio of land to one person in 1980, 12,580 square meters to one person. However, these statistics include water body, public utility. It's just a summary or an estimate. Exchange rate in 1980, less than 1 naira to $1. Price of bag of cement in 1980, 7 naira. Household was now used at in 1980, 2 years old. 2025, our population is projected to be 237 million. I was happy that the statistician general also said and confirmed that our population is more than 200 million. Our land has not increased. It's still 923,768 square kilometers. As of 2025, our land has now reduced to 3,890 square meter to one person. Exchange rate 1,533 naira. Cement 30,000 naira. 10,000. Land use at 47 years old. How many land has been titled after 47 years? Only 4%. Then there is a problem. There is a crisis at hand. Now, when you look at this trajectory, a time will come, our unborn children will no longer have land to build on, because our developmental pattern has always been horizontal. It's time to go vertical. If we must leave good inheritance to our unborn children. I was happy, Prof, from Hong Kong. I was in Hong Kong last year for the International Valuation Standard Council. If you go to Hong Kong, they are going vertical. She shared with us 1,000 square kilometer land for 7.5 million people. And she also showed us 10 blocks in Hong Kong that house 2,400 units. If you are to use 10 blocks in Nigeria, it will only be for 10 families. Everybody wants to show that I have a compound. Then they will now build on vertical. And our population is not helping matter. We kept on increasing our population, and we are behaving like my wife. How does my wife behave? My wife will order for shoes. Say, I have ordered for shoes, go and pay. I'm only praying that she will not even order for a car and ask me to pay. People are bringing children and giving them to government. I have children, give them school, give them accommodation. How can you explain a school start order in my university having 16 children, 14 children from one wife and 2 children from the new wife? And at the end of the day, government help us to train them, give them good education, house them. They don't have housing and they are poor. Do something for them. A time is coming that even the government will tell us the reality if we don't tell ourselves the truth. The population is increasing, land is decreasing. It's a serious problem. Next slide. Now, time for us to reimage our housing through innovation, collaboration, and policy. Because of my time, I will not be able to share international experience. From Brazil, how they launched in 2009 subsidized housing through federal state collaboration. The collaboration we need urgently is that of federal and state government. Go to India, you go to Singapore. Next slide. Other things that we can do. Next slide. City and support to state more responsive. Conclusion. Globally, land is central to economic function played by land in job creation, income distribution, and poverty alleviation are paramount. Countries like Singapore and the UAE have leveraged the potential of real estate. With deliberate collaboration, state and federal government, the of sustainable policy, full integration of technology, the housing in Nigeria. I'm not slide. Okay, is posed for robust growth and impact. Next slide. Take time.
Together. Very intentional experience with local content infusion. Round of applause. We have to help a company man. The was very beautiful. It so included that he went to Harvard, but I include what he studied at Harvard. So I called him and said, we bring the panel up. We have one more presentation, and this time we'll have who is the chief behind B at Dikpe Associates Limited, a firm built on strong foundations of financial and economic insight, with nearly 40 years of craftsmanship in economic construction. Prince spans his academic in high-rise project and scaffold the structural help to raise institutions like the University of Enterprise Consulting Group, National Merchant Bank PLC, and First City. English guests, ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is often called upon to inspect, advise on financial institutions. Please put your hands together as I invite Dr.
A very good evening, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. My appreciation to the board, convener of this international show. I'm happy to have come earlier to listen to other speakers and the concluded presentation. And why do I say that? Because in listening to the conversation, I discovered that a number of the issues present actually touched upon. So what I will do prepare the slides, which I believe everybody will get copies of. Because the focus of my presentation, I was told, should be the theme conference, and that is reimagining housing from child opportunities. Now, ourselves, let me start by context. Context is to look at developing countries around the world, and then come and then Nigeria. And I found there are all food deficit, manufacturing deficit, infrastructure deficit, and then the essence of this conversation. Please, very degree as we are not producing off. Some speakers there estimated depending looking at the number. But why the discussion? I quickly ran the numbers through my head. Now, Population of Nigeria estimated 207 million people. That rate of annual. And I said, if I play those two against each other, the growth rate and then the housing deficit, what are it affect deliver 1 million units annually over the next 15 years. So not 10. Son is how do we and deliver what we do today. Now also text of what is happening. No longer talk about chronology that evolved during COVID 2020. Now we are banning. In a world of banning nowadays, BANI, which means the environment we are to the environment non-linear, can't rely on, and of course, fourth them illustrate that play what is Trump 2.0 and the rest of the world. I won't say more than that. But in the light of that, I came across this statement. Of course, the author is unknown, but it goes, everything is going to be fine in the end. If it's not, find it. But if it is not fine, the end. That means it takes information, whatever is available, until we get to the solution we are looking for. Now, real estate, and especially housing development in Africa, seven challenges. We talk about it repeatedly. We just dealt with one of them. Cause much in love when I heard what Egypt financing. Bit of element. So resilient. Now the challenges, dear for long-term financing. I was privileged to be the keynote speaker at an event that the recent Nigerian company happened of those advocating for it in 20 years in Nigeria. Not doing to that less sense. It was create access to funding, which of course we see happening in countries around the world. But it's only now seen at space. 10 years we just listen to that. Big existent dedicated institutions that dedicate housing, and of course high cost. Then poor infrastructure. We heard from our moderator just importance of access to money, non-exempt or unforced social laws. Now, let me start with this. If we want to reimagine real estate, about 20 years ago, no, 21 now, 2004, when a book was published by Tom Peters, titled by that word, read. As my if we are to reimagine housing today, to wait, and how do we go about that? Which, of course, also reminds me of something, an article I came across in 1990 titled, "It's not what to think about, how to." So I asked myself, how do I look at this? Imagine. Number one, we want to add this a different way than we have done historically. and to reimagine approach the entire build from perspective, and then embed innovations. Now, talking about systems, my mind went to the understanding of as nice things and bring a particular objective. So I came to the human body. Human body is a very interesting illustration of systems. It is made up of several systems, of them working independently, but in harmony. It's remarkable that we call the human body. And of course, you see there the circulatory system, the pulmonary system, the musculoskeletal system, and so on and so forth. Only one, and that is to every here and every human being. Circulatory system. You have a heart at the center of it. Then you have veins, capillaries, that when you stretch them out, they will go around the earth, the circumference of the earth, twice in one single part of body. Capillaries, veins, when go around the earth twice. But now here is the heart of a human being. The average heart beats 72 times in minutes. That means 4,320 times in 1 hour. All day. Your heart, on the average, beats 103,680 times. If you take the space of 1 year, your heart beats for 37,843,200 times. But this is happening without you instructing your heart to beat. So in which case, when we reimagine, it should be about asking ourselves, of those operations can we automate? Today. Now, addressing housing challenges took me back to 1978 when I was still in the university as an undergraduate. And there was this subject, this course that I took, geography. And then we learned about environmental determinism, which means the environment people live in determines how they live, how they relate. This is the. So I said, can I bring that in context of this conversation today? Which means if we talk about housing, then the diversity, the nations where those houses are, the diversities in their cultures, culture is the life of a people, all right? The diversity of how they make decisions and choices, the diversity available to them. Of course, you know that we can start concept therefore into accommodations at this conference, and then drive one policy on innovations, and then on strategic partnership. And so I then said, if we are going to do that, then we consider, for example, the terrain, the soil, the cultures, and preference. Time we are trying to imagine housing construction. Now, within that context, I start funding. Challenge I mentioned earlier, long-term funding for us from three major sources, in my estimation. Governments, as has been mentioned, also through its agencies, through its institutions, and of course, what I call special purpose vehicles, what I call patient capital, long funding. And so for that to happen, to patient capital from angel investors, quote unquote, that is what I call commercial loans. All right. Now, the paucity of funds limits social housing development and delivery by governments, which increasingly also motivate private in housing. And we had that very early from the panel discussion and that was before I came up here. And that means when we talk about collaboration, we are looking at one between central and subnational one hand, and then looking also at the private and that are what are with us today. The involvement of the private sector also, we must remember, they are profit-seeking entities. It takes such projects out in. So critical then to resolving the idea of long-term funds are three things. One of them was mentioned on the panel discussion, and that's by our guest from Egypt. De-risking, risk for capital to come into it. That's number one. Then secondly, us build and sustain and confidence of stakeholders. And policies do not get changed. So in which case, if I put long-term funding to a sector or a project, then I must also have an assurance that the policy change. Now, equally on to the risk funding of housing construction and delivery, mapping, of course, and of course, mentioned earlier, consider a special purpose vehicle for the risking that is similar to credit guarantee. Guarantee scheme used around the world. As we speak to there are 250 credit guarantee schemes all around the world in over 100 countries. Now, we also need to ensure policy stability. But when we now land and property titling, which was mentioned, was addressed in the immediate past presentation, and this is where I want to recommend we depart from the old way of looking at things. When we look at titling, we only look the way of government as the party responsible and to drive that. But I've learned that even when something is within of the government, there's a lot the private sector to do motivate that. And I'll give up. In Nigeria today, the current national ID card project, which produced the need that we all have, I was privileged some 18 years ago, the business plan for this current national ID card project. And that was in 2000. Now, when the idea was brought forward, our then president, Obasanjo, said, I'm not going to release one single kobo for national identity card project. It's a way to be done. Let's do it by way of public-private partnership, where the fund required for project will be provided by private partners, structured for a 15-year period, number one. Then secondly, the back end of by the private partners, then the public-facing person behind by the government. And that was what we did in 2008 when we wrote the business plan. But today, we're all carrying in now. But I can also assure you here, because I was involved, it was done by the private partners, not by the public sector itself. Which means that if there are any changes in policy that help fast track our units to bridge the gap we have today, we must take the responsibility, drive, and then collaborate with government in doing that. Now, most of the leading economies in Africa have a plethora of housing relations, but a good number of those institutions are weak reasons. Either weak capacity, we had that mentioned earlier by the panel, for formalization. That also came in the panel discussion, and of political interference. Now, possibly for me, private operators in the built environment should explore areas in which they may offer technical and capacity building. Oh, okay, it's up. All right. In fact, I thought you wanted to say to give me 2 minutes. And I would have said, no, I don't need 2 minutes because I'm actually wrapping up. Thank you for that. So now the idea is this, that where there is a lack of capacity, we can offer to provide that. I've been involved in many projects we did government. Many occasions it is pro bono. But there's a terminology we describe it with, and that it is enlightened trust. We keep it so that they can give you quality service. So in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, now if we are going to get it with funding in affordable housing, we need to democratize mortgage. And what we mean by that is this: mortgage available, it must be accessible and convenient, and it must also be affordable. So now my conclusion goes this last year, and that is simply to say, what type of housing do we need in Africa? Africa must be affordable. It must be locally adapted. It must also be smart. I mean, like the case we listen, and it invariably must be sustained. When I mention 100 years, only way that we can build houses that will last 100 years. That for me is sustainability. And then the picture you showed us about light and then breeze. And I said, this is the whole essence. So that said, I want to say a very big thank you to organizers for having me stand before you at this time of the day. Thank you also very much. God bless you all. Over to you, sir.
Please make it louder for him. Hand the microphone to the model to invite the panelists.
They've been introduced. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dodipe, for that intervention. Thank you, Master of Ceremony. Dr. Ugochukwu Chime, Chairman, Copen Group, and Chairman, AHCN Board of Trustees. Please, let's put our hands. ESV Collins Olushino Alabi, Director, Department of Housing Development. Of course, our professor who developed the initiative, I hope he's still around. Is Prof still around? Prof, please, also you have to join us in case there are questions thrown our way that we can't attend to. Savio Yahaya Nadu Mohammed, Chairman, Presidential Technical Reform Committee on Land Reforms. Oluwaseun Ayodele Olowoporoku, Urban Specialist, World Bank Group. Is Oluwaseun here? Okay, maybe he's going to be joining us. I know we've been someone for several hours now, which I understand is not very healthy. So can we just rise up? Just rise up. Just take a stroll, just for some circulation. Oh yeah, Dr. Ayinde, just go like this. If I were in the church now, I would have been singing "Hold Somebody," but I won't do that. Let's just stretch our legs, just to allow some circulation of the blood. We've been sitting down. Yes, I think doctor is Chima is doing it very well. All right, thank you very much. Please, let's have our seats. Please, let's have a seat. The MC told us that there's a difference between have a seat and look for a seat. Okay, thank you very much. This session is holding as the last session for the day. Of this. My people say it is the last it is the biggest masquerade. Last, you know. But on a very serious note, land is critical to everything housing and real estate, because everything land. You know, always that is why the law is only Lord. The Lord doesn't know house lord. The Lord doesn't know office lord. You never hear of hotel lord or office lord or anything. Lord knows landlord, and that accentuates its sense of land as a driver of housing. And you know, when we speak of land governance, there are several aspects of land governance and how it stands as and the levers that you can pull to either that housing and those things that also militate the growth of housing all around land. You know, what I'm going to do, I'll defer to the expert which I have in the course questions. I will also chip in one or two things from my own experience. And I'm going to start from Reverend. I know that you've been at the side of the initiative to drive land reform at the federal level. You know, I just wanted to share with this group what are the top 3 or 4 things that have stood out for you that we must pay attention to if we as a nation are going to be able to drive and optimize land in that process.
Thank you so much. There is really nothing new that we're going to say today that has not been said. I put it in the context. Beside me, Surveyor Haya was the Surveyor General of the Federation almost over 2 decades ago, and he has been aware of, and then he was the chairman of PTCLR. The presentation by Prof underscores something. In his presentation, all the Renew Hope agenda was tied to issue of land. And that is very critical. That's a very summative statement in his presentation. Every development is on land. And how you manage land has a huge impact success otherwise of those developments. Unfortunately for us, that political will that was wielded by President Yar'Adua in 2009 to create the presidential land reform has not been followed up. We have a major problem has to do with the financial policy domiciled at the federal level, while the issue of land management is on this tier list and is being handled by everybody. We have that problem that many of the estates that were developed across the country, currently now we are doing over 400 units in one place. We don't have the C of O over that place, not to talk of other titles that we used to devolve to. And that is almost about a year into that project. We are finishing, people are supposed to enter into it maybe by December, but there is no certificate of occupancy. We cannot create legal mortgages over those properties. So that for you is a major problem that we have. And the political way to drive an inclusive development, both in terms of financing and in terms of the policy of land management, has not been addressed in the country. Today, at the federal level, all the Renewed Hope agenda is about to suffer some form of challenge because the issue of land management is not being addressed. At the subnational level, it is even worse because they are not aware of the impact of what is happening. Every focus has been on taxation and revenue generation, not on how to asset, not on how to empower the use of land for collateralization, and how to ensure that land, the transaction time and transaction cost on land management is reduced to the barest minimum. Over the years, we were able to do that with CSCS concerning shares and the stock market. And that made it to be a destination of choice for investors. Until we are able to do the same with land management as it pertains to housing, we are still going to have a mighty problem with our quest to have Renew Hope housing of the object that we're already on as a nation. I would like to stop there and allow others to make their contribution. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Chairman. Unfortunately, most, when the land use act was land use act acted, to aid planning and things like that. Unfortunately, most state governments have imputed revenue generation philosophy to success, and that is why we have the issues that we have today. In some states, agencies have targets, and you pay. So, and that invariably compounds the costs of the project at the end of the day. We discover that by the time you buy your land, before you perfect your tenant, pay stamp duty, you do registration, you have incurred sometime between 10 to 15% of the capital value of the land, and all those, they add to the cost of doing your business, which is really not very, very friendly for the sector. I'm going to come to you, Savio. One of the things that I've learned over the years is that in order to really optimize the value of land, we need to pay particular attention to planning. One of the ingredients of land governance is land use planning. I just want to share with this audience, how you think, how we have done, what we need to do differently, particularly in the area of planning, and how we can use planning as a tool to drive optimization and unlock value in land. I don't know whether your mic is working.
Thank you so much, the moderator. I succinctly pick what you have said about the issue of planning in relation to titling, in relation to documentation, in relation to registration, from the government's perspective. Yes, we have been doing things in a particular way, and we are getting the same old results. And what are the results we are getting? Things that will not allow or enable us to move forward as a nation or as professionals. You agree with me, the Professor Kemiki read all of this to us. What can we do? How do we mitigate this resilience? And this informed our relationship with the World Bank in the last 2 or 3 years, trying to build infrastructure, trying to build capacity. There we conceived a program which is called Nigerian Urban Livability and Mobility Project, which is to provide capacity, provide infrastructure, and mitigate climate resilience. Arising from this we convey different technical workshop and stakeholders engagement, which heralded the World Bank sending us to a technical deep dive in Tokyo and Hiroshima, Japan. Having visited all these countries that have access in land and landed property, about 11 countries were invited, including Nigeria. When we got there, we saw how it is being done globally in terms of land readjustment, landing, mitigating against vices that has to do with land. Quickly, we study what is obtainable in Turkey in terms of land cadastre. We study what is obtainable in Victoria in Australia. We studied obtainable Gotha, most of other countries. From there, we conceived a program in partnership with the World Bank, which is called Registration and Documentation Program. How do we go about it? This is to encourage us in terms of infrastructure development and capacity building. We held the first stakeholders engagement in March this year. At the conference or stakeholders engagement, it was read to us the potential and capacity of every state. They are fine. The question you ask yourself is, can they attain this? Why are they not been able to achieve this revenue potential? They require infrastructure in terms of provision of cadastre, in terms of building their staff, manpower, and a host of others. Having due regards to this, we are selecting states on a pilot scheme who will be the first beneficiary of this capacity building program and infrastructure provision from the World Bank. We are a stakeholders engagement, and the Lagos State government is hosting this program. What are we trying to do? Synergize with the states, add problems, encourage them, and make move at the country. We have built a concept note. We have designed a framework that will enable the state to connect into building this infrastructure with the aid of the World Bank and other donor agencies. These are the things we are bringing up in trying to mitigate these challenges of land titling, land documentation, and mitigating against resilience. If I may stop here, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I'll come to Sylvia Mohammed, and I'm just going to share with us from your perspective, particularly, Sylvia Collins has mentioned the issue of how we're trying to empower the states. But there's always a fundamental problem. The Land Use Act within each state in state government, a lot of states openly declare that land is their own oil, and they use control or surrender control at all. Now engage. How do we marry the obviously contradictory positions of the federal government? Some reserve for the federal government subject to Section 1 of the Land Use Act. But is said we don't want to mention the EU. So in this process of empowering, how do we ensure that the other party, to wit national, understand that we're not trying to the legal right vested in the governors. Thank you. I don't know whether you want to use that or you want to use this.
Hello? Yeah. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay, thank you very much for the what I've been asked to speak about. A lot of it is already in a paper that I was right here. I don't know whether I'm more, not at all. Point is, land reform is a very expensive exercise. It is. And it also requires, it requires very, the will by the government to go behind land reform. I'll give you examples. You talked about the subnationals. The land use decree says all lands are controlled by the subnationals. Federal government has no role in it. The only role it has is, I think 49, where it granted some permission for the Federal Ministry of Urban Housing and Urban Development to work on federal lands. Land controlled by the states and the local governments, and there's no two ways about it. So when the Presidential Technical Committee on Land Reform was constituted in 2009, and other particular things that it was asked to, and past 16 years, this is what Presidential Technical Committee has been doing, and there is no end in sight. Now, I'll give you some statistics. Let's take housing, for example. Which says there are 28 million housing deficit. If you take the middle income of perhaps 10 million naira, that is 280 trillion naira gap. If you want to quantify it, come from? Is it going to come from the allocations to to federal Ministry of Housing Development, where they get less than 100 billion per year for housing development? Or is it going to come from the state's housing corporations, which sometimes have no budgetary allocation at all? So there must be other ways of looking at this. I'm so happy to have come to this meeting because I've had a lot of, new concepts, new ideas that we can explore. But certainly the traditional ideas, they are not working. You can begin to bring, recycle different ones. I mean, you can take it from systematic land title and documentation. It's the same thing. We started that 16 years ago, and another company is coming another 16 years, another 16 years, and you find out 5%, less than 5% country. From the time Nigeria came into Nigeria, which is 1914, 7 years allocation was created. Nigeria's 3%. Now I understand it is about 5%. You can see we're not going anywhere. Land Use Act has been promulgated in the last 47 years, which means in the last nothing has been done. So what's going to happen? What is going to happen is that we have to think out of the box, and to think out of the box is to see who go find the kind of funding that will things work. And to do that, the paper I was going to present is titled Unlocking, about 1,500 trillion naira that is locked into real estate. It's locked. The only reason it's locked is the real estate has no documentation. Okay? So we are talking about such money. And for 16 years since the presidential tax for land form was enacted, the government was unable to provide capital. The total 16 years, they do not enough capital allocation to do a systematic land title registration of only one local government out of the 800 local governments in Nigeria. This is 774 local government plus the 6 area councils in Abuja. So it's not easy. But we have to think out of the box. And to think out of the box is, I heard the minister sitting down there earlier and saying that in the next 5 years, to try to unlock about 450, so 300 billion naira, which is about 450 trillion naira in 5 years, he says. The proposal we are bringing is for Nigeria to unlock the first 100 trillion naira in the next 5 years. And even to do that, the kind of what the government has to do, and all of us here happy that I've got a platform like this. I have never had the opportunity to get informed people like this particular group, and I thank the organizers for inviting me here. I've heard so much. I learned a lot. You can see, yes, with a group like this putting together, you can actually become the arrowhead of making this happen.
Thank you very much, sir. This shown so that Reverend and Prof can intervene. Talking systematic titling, documentation. What exactly are we? Because you have to create before you type. Are we renting? And I want us to look at it in the context of a Land Use Act, which was enacted 47 years ago. There has been no major reform to today. I mean, the whole world has shifted. We've had several dynamics changed. COVID has come and gone. Land Use Act is 1978. So in the context of what you are doing, sir, and in the context of the various rights, and because we have to think of the first registration and registration of subsequent transactions. That is where the real issues are. So what exactly are we doing, and how do we think that will help us to achieve what we are talking about? Maybe Prof should start first, since Prof has not. Okay, maybe you want to start.
Thank you so much. While Dr. Dedeji was concluding his statement, he made mention of something that is very vital for me. Enlighten. Before we started this panel discussion, Collins Alabi gave me a document that I presented in 2017. I don't know why he gave it to me, but as I read the document, he gave it to me here. That was the paper I presented 2017 at Yaradua Center when we were working on the State Data and Management Program, which I chaired then as Redam President. We have not seen as developers the impact of this mismanagement of land on our businesses. In that 2017, CBN got rattled when they remember that the problem in America in 2009 came from the real estate sector. So they decided to gather data on real estate to be able to track trends and be able to prevent such risk and failure that can occur. So many real estate companies and mortgage institutions have been afflicted by this issue of in management in this country. Our aspirations as a people to grow and scale up our industry, our practices is severe. So what I believe is that the fact that we started talking on this we have a unique opportunity with the current stress addressing issue. And the question has been, we took a study and then looked at and we first of all, we discovered one, that so many issues has hardened the position of some of the subnationals who are not interested in giving any amendment. Issue of taxation, issue of farmers and herders clash, and so many other things have made it difficult for people to initiate the needed land management improvement at level. So what we felt we needed to do, there are administrative changes, and there are some peer review to make it possible to see the need to change. How can they understand that all the development initiative that the private sector energy can bring to their respective states to efficient, they can improve effectively, not by way of changing the land use act, administratively, how they can a given area if GIS introduction, how can you use technology to speed up the process? Lagos is a key example is Nasarawa, who have been able to reduce the time lag, the transaction time processing of CO4 from 30 days, and are still trying to work it down. We who are in the sector who are affected by this unique challenge that we have need to get together, because I'm the part of the land reform set up by the current minister, but there's no funding. So all of us have had to use our private funds to run the system. Now, when we mentioned the issue, Doc mentioned the issue of enlightened self-interest, it behoves upon all of us whose businesses have been capped by the inefficiencies in the land management and find out how can we meet the people, because within the ambit of the existing roles by the state governors, they have ample room to make significant progress in what they are doing. How can we to think out of the box, driver policy and the practice in their respective spaces, and we are develop for them things that will make them to be more efficient. We've been able to look at Function Bank, Dr. Fuad Makawi of the World Bank and Collins. We've been able to look at areas that does not involve core change, but can cause sufficient headroom. At least we can kick the can down the road. And that is what I think that we have to set up. That was one thing that we better. When we saw that they were citing real estate development and borrowing funds to develop houses where they are not needed. So we found out that we have to move our way out by investing a fraction of our CSR to do this. So I think that instead of looking at government alone, that self-interest will ask, find it, tell them what they are losing and what we are losing equally by allowing the existing status quo to exist. When that happens, we have done that with one or two states moving around the country, and they are beginning to turn around and see that they are injuring themselves and shooting themselves in the leg. And that is what I think should be a starting point. Thank you so much.
I'm going to tell you now, Prof, but I also want to throw it to the floor so that I know we have so many experts, isn't right, and I think it's important for us. Is there any contribution, any question to Prof, any contribution, any suggestion, that's from the floor? Okay, maybe while they are thinking, Prof.
Thank you very much. Let me thank the organizer of this event for inviting me here to Abuja. When we talk about systematic land titling, land documentation, registration, and titling, all we are saying is that if you have a tenant that is not documented with the landlord, both are at disadvantages. If anything happens to the landlord or to the tenant, from where do they derive their rights, privileges, and obligation? If they agree, certainly there is a difference between a landlord and tenant affected, duly executed agreement, and the one without a tenancy agreement. In Nigeria, across all sectors is lack of data. We don't know who is who. We don't know who is living where. Most of the forms ask me, put Ogun State, but I'm not in Ogun State. You can't count me and plan for me as a resident of Ogun State. It's for our government to also do something about that and ensure that where we live counts even better and higher than our state of origin. Now, going back to registration of title, sir, you asked, what are we registering? We are registering of a land. That ownership is what we want to register. It has to be formalized. And what is the essence of formalizing that ownership? Even the subsequent transaction you talk about cannot come if there is no first transaction. That first transaction must start. You can't go to subsequent transaction first transaction in the first place. So what we are registering, what we want to do is to ensure that that ownership you claim you have is known to that authority as ensured, and that authority, the governor, and who is the responsibility of the governor? The Ministry of Land. Formalize it, register it, document it, so that it will, one. Number two, you will be recognized in case if acquisition is to take place. Number three, it boosts the value of your property. Property, one with a registered title and one with a local title. Which one will you prefer to buy? Which one will you buy or command higher value? Of course, the one with title. So, in addition to this, the Federal Ministry also deploying technology to take care of some inherent problems with our traditional way of registering title. We have seen situations whereby somebody has a title that is registered, another person will go and register another because technology has not been deployed. Technology can solve that problem. Wherein, before any alteration is made in that process, there must be an approval. You cannot alter anything in that document, that approval of a certain authority. So it goes beyond that traditional paper. Oh, I have a CFO. It's well documented with a very robust technology that can secure that and prevent it from manipulation. So conclusively, we are talking about registering the ownership to land so that I know who and who is living at a particular place and be able to plan for us and that our registered or title to better for our land. Thank you.
Okay, I'm just going to round up now. I know we've tried. In reality, we've tried. So I'm going to start from Mohammed, Yahya Mohammed, for one or two closing. What are the priority areas that you think on in order to ensure that we're able to unlock value and finance through land?
Well, it's there are a lot of things that need to be done that are not done. Let's take the Land Use Act, which was promulgated 47 years ago. From the time it's promulgated to date, not one single, law been made to make it work, and then do that. But it has not done that. In the last 47 years, the National Council of State are allowed to make regulations to do a lot of the things that I just had the professor talk. But for the last 7 years, no good regulation has been made by the National Council of State. Let me tell you something. In the last six, the Presidential Technical Committee on Land Reform has sent more than 130 different regulations that have been used through to the National Council of State. Up to today, in the last 16 years, those regulations have not gone before the National Council of State. Collins will tell you about that. So there is the political will. If you don't have the not work. And that even just though you can promulgate a lot of things that will make the Land Use Act less vicious than it is now. The second most important thing is capacity building. I've heard so much about systematic land title order recordation, but I'm telling you, there are people at the front office that are going to do these things correctly. We have not started training them. And let me tell you, like I said, we need to develop about 700 different registries. Actually 7, including Abuja, improve 37 state registries. None of this has taken place. And it will take you a lot of money, a lot of time to do this. And that's the only way to make the recordation we're talking about work. Thank you, sir.
The first thing is to thank all the stakeholders who have not given up on the sector. I'd like to appreciate that because it can be very daunting. The second thing I would like to say is that with the passage of the tax law in this country, be able to appeal to Mr. President to look at the issue of land economic growth he wants to do for this country. It's not something that the ministry alone can do. Mr. President must come in to see how we can unlock and remove the challenge we have to our socio-economic development. The third thing that I would like to say is that as practitioners, NMRC did something some years ago. They tackled an aspect of it called the model law. That is something to do with management. If other institutions like Federal Mortgage Bank and similar institutions like even MRIF or Family Homes Fund, they should come together and pull resources together to tackle aspects of it, because we are the ones that are affected. They can work that in conjunction with RIDAN and MBAN to see how we can remove this cap, this limitation of our businesses. Number 4 for me is that we have to appeal to the state governments. What we needed to do is to gather data on the efficiency of the land management across the various states and begin to publish a peer review report that shows how it is that some states are better destination of choice for investment because of the improvement on their land management. That will be a sound warning to those that are national, that are not willing to do anything in their state, until we be able to show it clearly as their report card. They will think that they can hold the destiny of their people and the whole country. It's just to report the huge impact that it has. As I speak today, many mortgage bank and many primary mortgage banks are not surveyed because some of those things were created on what they used to call then not legal mortgage, they call registrable equitable mortgage. And those equitable mortgage can never stand the test when they crystallize, when the loan crystallizes. So we have billions of losses currently in the country because of this poor land management. And we need to be able to publish it and tell ourselves this is of the AIHS. As a result of this inefficient land management, we are losing billions of bank money and other. Finally, I think it is so important for us to begin to publish advocacy instruments for the challenges that we have globally in the real estate industry, in the mortgage sort of efficiencies. It's not getting out there. People are not aware of what is happening. Aware of the pricing of some of the loans they receive from banks for commercial development is related to the risk assessment they have as a result of this challenge. Until we're able to tell people that we have a catch-22 situation on our hand, you want to reduce the cost of funds and be able to have fund inflow into the sector. It can never happen because it is a veritable risk. The risk index is very high compared to other areas. So telling people this is what you have done, what you have done to unlock this sector. Thank you so much.
Very much. I want to clear. There is no ambiguity between the powers conferred on the governor by the Land Use Act in Section 1, subsection 1A to E of the Land Use Act. They are if that power, and that of Section 49, subsection 1, that confers the power on federal titles of federal government land for each and respective government at different level to obey and commit themselves. This will enable effective sound land on one side. For us as a ministry, we are still building infrastructure with fit in the area of land admin domain model, where we'll be able to secure our land title, our landed properties across the country. That we are building clusters across the country in one half, and we are inventorizing our landed properties as a government, despite encroachments by state government and community. These are many more we are doing as a government, and quickly, with time, we'll achieve results. And as well, we are still building relationship with states in terms of collaboration, advocacy, and sensitizing them about the needed program we have at hand, so that when they partner with us, they will back of all and raise. Thank you very much.
Please, let's put a hand together for the panelists. Just two or three things I just want to say by way of my closing remarks. Number one, when I saw this topic, unlocking land, how to unlock value in land, and that was why I asked the question which Prof tried to respond to. The first thing that occurred to me is that the most standard in this country today, the transaction chain that anybody can beat his chest, it has a tool that is indefeasible. That is why land, you buy house, 20, 30, 40 years later, somebody gets a judgment, and you lose your land. And we've seen several examples over the past 10 years. Remember Agidingbi. Agidingbi is still very fresh. Agidingbi is like of over 2,000 properties. Aja today, all those who have brought from Ajiwe families now, Olumegbon family, they are both in court. I've bought Ajiwe family, people have brought from Olumegbon family. Who wins at the end of the day? Iwaya, for 4 years. Eventually the church law. Several third-party rights have been created in the circumstances, you know. So the first thing that we need to pay attention to is that, and the analysis that Prof gave is very right. You know, in this country, there are two systems of title registration over the years. Number one is the land of 1912 and the Registration of Title Act 1935. The 1935 Act created the register as a mirror. There are columns, proprietorship column, charges column. In that proprietorship column owns the land. If he says to Akim, Chine's name, and the question is it a case of once a registered owner? That is the real issue. There's no point, you know, and that is, I think that is a main for real estate. As long as, because this matters to all the participants, to the financiers, to the is very, you know, I've been caught, you know, my company has been caught in a major web like that. That is the first we need to avert our mind to. The second issue, and I like the approach that Sylvia Chime says the committee is taking. I always stress that if you look at the Land Use Act very well, even if you don't amend the Land Use Act, for example, on the issue of consent, it shall be unlawful for the governor without. That is the word Land Use Act. Everything else derived from regulations which the states have made. They are not from the substantive provisions of the Land Use Act. The Land Use Act doesn't tell you how much you must charge, who must pay, the process and things like that. These are low-hanging fruits and drive our advocacy towards. A lot of people don't understand. And the issue of financing has been, I know this is not a session on financing, you know. And you know, whenever when we sit like this, I always think that one of the greatest challenges of our industry is that we have to get to that level that we start creating assets that can attract capital. That is a major gap in this industry. And there's money there. If CBEX, many of us had the story of CBEX. If CBEX in 3 years is 0.3 trillion naira in this same country, investors, 20,000. It shows clearly that people will always underrate the depth of the retail market. I've said it before. When we floated the REIT many years ago, we focused on the institutional investors who are doing roadshow all over the world. We didn't pay attention to the retail investors. But when the result came, we say, so these people are here. You know, is a major challenge for our industry. The final issue is around casing. We need to step up casing on point. I'll give the example of tax. You know, Taiwo has left. 2011, 2012, 2013, when we had issues with the regulation on REITs and taxation, we did major tax advocacy. We were meeting in my office with Taiwo almost every other week, you know, and we were organizing seminars, we were organizing Let's understand that when we say REIT, it's a pass-through investment vehicle. We're not saying exempt REIT from tax. All we are saying is that you cannot tax in the hand of the entity and tax again in the hand of the unit holders. Government didn't understand that. It took like 3.5 years. You know, but today we have a tax regime which has helped us to solve that. So all the issues that we discussed today and a lot that we're going to discuss in the course of this conference, we need to step up our advocacy. We need to put money behind the advocacy. And I like the way Doctor has called it, enlightening self-interest. That is the only way we can get the government to. Thank you very much, and God bless you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Another round of applause. Our photographers, can you approach as we allow the panelists to take a group picture, please? While they are doing that, to just inform you that tomorrow by 8 a.m. we'll be here. We have a host to do tomorrow. We'll have presentation Nigeria's first industrial policy. Let's take catalyst for industrial growth. We're thinking design and construction methods, affordable housing delivery, content driver for the Nigerian first industrial policy, and a lot of other discussions and presentations. So distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm wonderful in today. We will advise that you still try to attend to the exhibition. The exhibition. Tomorrow we'll have time to ask questions and to participate as members of the audience. Thank you very much. We've had a wonderful day. See you tomorrow at 8 a.m. Thank you.
Conference etiquette. To ensure you get optimal benefit from the program, we have listed a number of points to facilitate an enjoyable event. Audience participation. This is an interactive platform and questions are encouraged, particularly in our panel discussion. Please state your name and organization before posing your question. Should you prefer, specific questions can be left in writing in the information decks prior to the presentation to ensure the content is covered as appropriate. Access pass. Please wear your name tag at all times, which you have been provided with, both as a courtesy to other delegates and for efficient delivery of message. If there are changes that need to be made, please ask the registration decks to print you another one. This year, we are raising the bar.
You don't know you're in Nigeria. See, lunch was the trick to wait.
You don't take responsibility.
No, tripod. I think you use it. Let's be accurate. They go on fold on.
I can't be renting SDIK.
Rent SDIK. I know, just take your time to stop you. I was that battery.
See, I keep on my guys.
Okay, ahead. At this one, ba. Sabi entah short eh. Sabi entah short eh. You see, camera. You enter back with this picture. Pop.
Tomorrow you go see enter.
Go forgive you today.
No Allah, boss. No Allah.
Conference etiquette. To ensure you get optimal benefit from the program, we have listed a number of points to facilitate an enjoyable event. Audience participation. This is an interactive platform and questions are encouraged, particularly in our panel discussion. Please state your name and organization before posing your question. Should you prefer, specific questions can be left in writing at the information desk prior to the presentation to ensure the content is covered as appropriate. Access pass. Please wear your name tag at all times, which you have been provided with, both as a courtesy to other delegates and for efficient delivery of message. If there are changes that need to be made, please ask the registration desk to print you another one.
This year, we are raising the bar with 4 dynamic breakout halls, Hall 1, Hall 2, Hall 3, and Hall 4, each designed to host powerful conversations and transformative ideas across the entire housing and construction ecosystem.
Copyright. Please note that all documentation is under the copyright